on the 18th of November?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, not hearing
Yes.
any consent.
Yes.
That's spot on. And do you have any disclosures of interest that you haven't already mentioned? No.
No.
Okay, well, we'll move straight on to the main business. An update of contacts with schools and training provision from Caroline Weir.
Hi, everybody. Hi. So in terms of what I've done so far with schools, it's been limited in that there hasn't been much contact. I'm sure Dave will fill that in as well. I've had contact from one school, Bellingham Middle. I've been in touch with them, someone who's taken the RE on newly. So I've talked them through the syllabus and where to look, and we'll be getting back in touch then just to follow up with support on that one. The rest of the work that I've been doing has really been about familiarising myself with the current agreed syllabus as we then think towards the review of the syllabus. And so I've been having a look, familiarising myself with that, reading through the units and so on, as well as having a look at some other agreed syllabuses across the country just to get a sense of where things are going nationally, and been joining in with national conversations as well. And that's me.
Well, thank you, Caroline. Does anyone have any questions? I can't see you all.
Can I ask something? Caroline, you've had some experience in the past with RE and special needs. I'm not, this isn't just to bounce you with a big question, but overall, is there space for development with special needs and RE with that syllabus?
Do you mean, would I be happy to look at that in terms of the review?
Well, yes. Is that something that we could consider developing more? Do you think there's scope for it?
I think that's that's the perfect time to ask that question, isn't it, Chris, at the stage that we're at in terms of reviewing and so on. So that will be a question, I guess, for the Agreed Syllabus Conference, and I'd be happy to absolutely to work with members and to work with colleagues in special schools if that's something that's particularly interested in supporting them. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Great question. Thanks, Chris.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Does
anyone else have a question?
Yeah, I had a question for Caroline.
Mm-hmm.
I work in a very small rural school in a very rural part of Northumberland, and one of the biggest opportunities I think that the RE curriculum offers is that sort of beginning of a window into the wider world, which we're always trying to increase, particularly in our context. So I just wondered if that's something that we could also sort of ask to have reflected as a theme through when we're looking at the syllabus, is that those opportunities for that sort of wider world into our little corner of Northumberland, because where we are, it's always something that we're, it's at the forefront of our planning.
That's a great point. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, absolutely. That would be something that I would be wanting to do to help our pupils, our teachers and our pupils think about each of the faiths that we're looking at as living and diverse world faith, and looking at the wider world and not just how they're practiced here in the UK or even here specifically in Northumberland, but as a window into the wider world. Yeah. So Sarah, do come and join, or Sarah, I'm not sure, sorry, I got that wrong, but please do come and join the working group and share your ideas. That would be brilliant. Thank you.
That's great. I have been in touch with Dave and I'm hoping I can do that. That'd be great.
Fab.
Thank you, Sarah. I've got joints with their hands up.
Yeah, it might be relevant to say something at this moment about the project that's happening in Cumbria that was mentioned in the last meeting, because they're running a project called Virtual Voices in RE, and it is going to be rolled out nationally eventually. At the moment, it's still very early days in terms of planning, but this is going to be a major project. They've got more than £10,000 of funding from Cullum St Gabriel's, and they're going to start working with a very small number of schools. So it's primary and secondary and initial teacher education. So a small number of schools with 2 or 3 of the communities in Cumbria for a 3 to 4 month rollout, and then there'll be a year's project when it's rolled out across the area as a whole, but also nationally, and I think everybody will be able to benefit from that. They're also planning, and I don't have any details on this yet, but they're planning a secondary conference for the North once this work is finished, I assume. So it's going to be live and film and interviews with people from religious and worldview communities. So everybody should be able to benefit from that, including schools in quite rural parts of Northumberland and everywhere else, really.
Great, thank you, Joyce. Yes, I'd love to hear even more about that, so that we can work together on that. That'd be brilliant. Thank you.
It all sounds like good stuff. Do we have any other questions? No? Well, thank you for that, Caroline. That was really good. And any sort of conferences or workshops that you're going to, feel free to just keep me in the loop with what's going on. It's an important part of our provision that we do this. Okay, so we'll move on to item 5, the SACRE newsletter, which you will have had paperwork. We really are just to consider it, and is there anything any members would like to raise? Dave, have you got anything to say about it?
No, good afternoon, colleagues. Just to say, I hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, it may have been a little thinner than usual editions, but that's due to the lack of activity in schools, due to numbers in schools. But hopefully, we will get back to a position where there is a little more content from schools reflecting the activities that they're undertaking. If there are any submissions you would like to make for the next edition in April, then please do send them across. I know that Joyce has been in touch, and I'm expecting something from Joyce. Miriam, I think you said something at some point, which I would obviously be happy to include. So if there is any content you would like putting in, then please send.
Thank you. Okay, so Diana.
Yeah, just to say, I mean, it is beautifully presented, but I just, it's to do with my age and my eyesight, but certain of the backgrounds, white doesn't come out terribly well. The one on the Accord Inclusivity Award, I can barely read the writing there. I know it's to do with my eyesight, but it's just something you need to look at when you're printing it. I mean, you know, it's wonderful that it's in colour, because maybe some backgrounds don't show up well with the white writing. I'm sorry, it's feeling a bit pernickety.
No, thank you, Diana. That's good feedback. I'll talk to the printing company we use and ask them to avoid that particular background colour in future. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Can I ask what the date is for copy for the April newsletter? What's your deadline?
It's due to go out in April, Stuart. Yeah, it's due to go out in April. So if I could have things by the end of March, that would give me enough time to turn it round and get the printers on the job. So yes, end of March deadline, please, if you would.
It's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hiya, can I just ask about the newsletter? Is it going to go out online or is it a physical print?
It goes out online, so it will be added to the County Council webpage in time. It's also put onto the e-courier, which we send to all schools, which is the usual way that schools access it. So it's designed to be read online, but it does have the ability for schools to publish it. And what we hope happens is that schools print off a copy and put it in their staff room so that all members of staff can see it, as well as those that we ask them to send it on to.
Okay, thank you.
It's already online. If you look on the committee documents for this committee on the county website, you can get it, but then it'll also go on the main education page, won't it, Dave? So if anyone hasn't got the paper copy in front of them, they can get it online. Okay, no more questions for Dave? Apologies, my internet's pretty poor. I'm getting, things are flashing at me. Right, okay, we shall move on. An update on the agreed syllabus. That'll be you again, Dave, is it?
Yes, we have discussed about the agreed syllabus conference in the past. As you will know, we are expected to have ready for around about September the new syllabus. Kaz and I have been, Kaz in particular has been working in the background, preparing, looking at what we have currently, looking at the good practice we can take from elsewhere. So I'm in a position after this meeting to ask for more volunteers from schools in particular to come forward. I do have a number of volunteers from this group already who said they would like to be involved. So dates and times will come out in the next day or two, inviting you to a session, an introductory session, and then meetings after that to start the work on rewriting the syllabus for September. We may do it slightly differently. Kaz has got some excellent ideas about how we might work on this over time, rather than simply expect it all to be ready for a fixed deadline and then sort of leave it for the next few years. So there's certainly some discussions to have around there. But I think the more we can encourage teachers to be involved, the better, because ultimately it's the teachers that are expected to deliver this, and we need to provide them with something that's going to be useful, that's going to be worthwhile. And certainly the questions that were asked of Kaz earlier on, they're really important questions, and if they're coming from members of staff in school, they're the ones that we certainly need to address. Yeah. Sorry, you're on the list already. So then
Joyce,
so I will send those invites out shortly. Ted.
Can you reaffirm who's on the list, Dave? Because I was involved with it last time. Who's involved in the process this time?
You are, Ted. Is that what you want to hear?
Yeah. No, I wanted. Who else is involved?
I haven't got the list to hand, Ted, but when I email everybody
later
on,
fine.
all of the people.
That's fine, thank you.
So you'll see them. Joyce?
Could I just have a point of clarification as a new member? Am I right in assuming that the SACRE also takes on the role of the agreed syllabus conference legally?
Yes. So that's what I'm describing. We will get together a group of people that will consist of members of the SACRE who volunteered, plus some members of staff from schools across the county who have volunteered to do that piece of work. Yes.
So will that be a working group advising the agreed syllabus conference?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for those questions.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that it's just I look forward to seeing the final product of the syllabus update, but we're not quite there yet. Are you saying it'll be how long before September? Do you think it'll be ready, Dave?
We're hoping to have some kind of launch event before the end of the summer term. It partly depends on the amount of work that the working group feel is needed. It partly depends on what situation schools are in July, because there would be no point in doing anything with them if they were in a similar position to they are now, partially open. So it will depend on the circumstances at the time, Guy. If it is not ready for September, that is not the end of the world. We have a document that is in use at the moment, so we just need to make sure that the launch is at the right time so that it has the maximum impact. But we are aiming for September, all things being equal.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, we'll move on to item 7. The statutory annual Northumberland SACRE report for 1920 academic year, which is Appendix A in your packs, and we have to consider and approve it. So who's going to talk?
I'll do that, Guy.
Yep.
Only this has been written in the past by Phil. I didn't think it was fair to give the job to Kaz as she was new in post, so the report has been written by me this time round. I've used the same format as Phil has used, and the format Phil has used has come from the national body. I hope that it reflects the work that SACRE have done, the work that we know schools have undertaken. Obviously, this year is completely different to any other year. So some of the content there is less content this time, for example, with exam results, because we do not have such thing as 2020. But if you in time could read it, send back any comments that you would like to make, so that within a number of weeks I can finalise that and send it to everybody on the distribution list, I'd be very grateful.
Thank you, Dave. Does anyone have any questions? I do. So, do we have any figures? This will be a very difficult thing to do, but obviously children are learning from home. Do we know if do you have data per subject as to how much they're doing? Because it'd be interesting to know if you've got so many, what percentage are taking part in the RE, what percentage are taking part in maths, what percentage are taking part in English. Because I do worry that although we're putting all these things on for the children to learn, not all of them, a lot of them are just not using it.
Yeah, the simple answer, is that we don't know. Schools are expected to try and replicate the curriculum that they would have in school remotely, so that the two align. So in theory, the curriculum that is being taught in school to the pupils who are attending and the curriculum that's being taught to the pupils who are not attending should be the same thing. In those schools where they are streaming lessons from the classroom, so in effect you've got a small number of children sat in the classroom listening to the teacher deliver, at the same time that lesson is being recorded and all the children at home are joining in at the same time, then we know that the curriculum is aligned, and that's fine. The same if the lessons are recorded and then viewed. In terms of whether or not RA is still being, resources are still being produced and children are being taught, in the cases that I know about, then yes, it certainly is. I can certainly tell you that two different high schools, or a high school and a secondary school, are providing RE lessons, because my children who sit next door are going through them, and I am checking, so I can certainly vouch for two particular schools. But the expectation is that all schools continue to offer the subjects that they would have offered had the schools been fully open. So although we can't tell how many, the expectation is that it is there, and certainly now that Ofsted have returned, and we did have 2 inspections last week, if there was to be any issues found, then they would, I hope they would pick things like that up. But it's certainly a question that we can ask if we feel it's important for the committee to know.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. That was a really comprehensive answer. Deanna?
Just the wider issue of that's been publicised in the newspapers about the lack of computers and iPads and things for children, and the push that local businesses are looking in their cupboards and things to find things, certainly around the deprived areas of Newcastle, North Tyneside and South Tyneside. I wondered if this was affecting Northumberland.
You've come to the right person, Deanna, as I'm the man who's tasked with trying to ensure that devices get to children. Yeah, so yes, that's been my substantive role over the last few weeks. The issue, like every local authority, is that we are still short. Our estimate at present is that we are probably 2,500 devices short across the county. That means if we were to get 2,500, we think we would be able to provide every child with the suitable device. A phone isn't classed as a suitable device. A PlayStation or Xbox isn't classed as a suitable device. So we are working with providers to try and get more devices into the county. The issue is funding and supply, because there is a shortage of suitable devices in the appropriate price bracket at the moment. So there are a lot of people, there is a very high demand, a lot of people trying to get hold of these devices, and there aren't that many around. I've just taken a phone call about an hour ago from Vodafone, who I'm working with to try and provide data to families, because one of the other issues is once you provide them with the device, a number of families don't actually have the internet to be able to make that device work. So there are 2 issues here. We are we are doing our best. We've probably had about 4,000 devices delivered by the DFE over time. We've definitely had just over 2,500 given to local authority schools. I'm not privy to the data for academies, but we estimate that to be about 1,500. So we'll be up to about 4,000 or 5,000 devices from the DFE. We have had some donations from members of the public. I'll be perfectly frank, the donations from the members of the public, in over half of the cases, those devices are so old that they're not actually any use. So of course we take them all in, and we take them to County Hall and the technicians look at them, but a lot of them end up simply being recycled because they're not capable of providing the kind of technology that pupils need. So Deanna, you're absolutely right. We are in the same position as everybody else. We have a shortage. We're working on that shortage. We're a lot better off than we were, but there is still a way to go. The other added issue is the rurality of the county means that certain areas, there are cold spots where mobile phone signal and broadband is very, very difficult. So we were donated some dongles which provide the wireless internet to devices from Northumbrian Water, which was great. However, when you look at the coverage checker as to where these devices will work, actually there are some significant parts of the county where they will not work. So there needs to be a different solution for certain areas. But again, we're working on that and we're trying to get through the issues as best we can. Although schools may go back in a number of weeks now, there will be a permanent change to the way that some schools deliver the curriculum. So ensuring that all children have a device and have access to the internet is going to be very important going forward. And I can see real opportunities for things like field work and visiting those faraway places that, you know, sometimes we used to get on a bus and go and visit them, but actually in some cases we don't necessarily need to do that once we're at the point where all children have a device in their possession. So the same issues, but it's something that I'm spending probably 3 or 4 hours a day working on. If I had a big money tree, it would have been fine, Deanna. But
what about the sort of some of the big businesses who, you know, very readily, I think, discard old models for newer ones? I mean, I think don't be shy to ask.
Absolutely, we do have a couple of businesses that I can't name, but we do have a couple of businesses that have donated devices. And again, we are in the process of making those suitable for young people. The slight issue with that is that when you're recycling devices, there is a cost, and you have to weigh up the time and the cost of recycling old devices, as opposed to simply buying new devices that you can open out the box and will work immediately. But we have taken donations in the hundreds of devices from businesses as well, and they're currently with a firm in Stoke-on-Trent being turned around at this very moment.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Paul Rusby next.
Thank you. It's just as head of a school, and we nearly 400 children. We actually got 12 devices from the DFE, which as a percentage of our need was very small. But it was just to say a huge thank you to Dave, because I've spoken quite a few times to Dave about this, and he's been incredibly supportive of schools, and I'm sure all schools would really appreciate all the time and help that he's put in. We managed to find some ex-County Hall Chromebooks that we bought off the county council, that when county moved from Google to Microsoft. The bit that I hadn't realised at that point was that you need separate Google licenses for them. So that's coming to more than £1,000 extra that we're going to have to buy just to put the licenses on those. But I think lots of people are looking at creative ways to use the laptops that were being gifted from people. But I would completely concur with Dave as well that some of the things that we do get are useful, and some sadly that they're so old that we can't actually get them out to the children there. But it's but we're very grateful to Dave Cookson for all his help in trying to help us source these devices. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I think there's been 200 plus old Chromebooks come out of County Hall. I didn't know about that issue with the Google licenses, though. I can raise that with the Director of Education. Mr. Nichols, I've got next.
Hi. Yeah, it's because I'm the Southeast organizer for the NEU. I've just sent a message to everybody in the WhatsApp reps group, asking just for some clarification about shortages on devices within the schools that they are reps in or they represent. So I should get some feedback from that, which I'll send to you. But I did see on the news, or it was on the internet or something. It was that EE are offering free data packs for disadvantaged families as well as Vodafone. So it might be worth getting in touch with EE too about getting children access. But as far as the Ashington Academy goes, we got 127 devices delivered out to students. So our list of students, which went on for a page and a half of A4, got reduced down to about 6. So we've managed to get a lot out to our students. And I'm not too sure about the NE Academy, but I can ask Storm, who's the head there, not the head there, who's the rep over there, to find out about that. But yeah, it was just basically that. So if there's anything else you need or any help you need, I'm here to disseminate any questions or information to the reps, and we'll get quick answers to any questions tonight, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Tony. We have asked the schools already what their shortage is, but obviously that number changes on a weekly basis. So any update you can provide would be great.
Yeah.
The EE scheme and the Vodafone schemes have been launched with schools, so they know about that. The DFE also have a way of providing free data onto mobile phones for parents, so that children do have a way to access the internet. And again, that information has gone out. For the vast majority of people, that's absolutely fine. But I'm actually going to Rothbury first in the morning to deliver some dongles, because that scheme actually doesn't work in Rothbury. So we're hoping that an alternative can be found for the particular family that we're working with up there. But yeah, appreciate your information, Tony. Thank you.
Right. Do we have any further questions about the annual report? No? Well, I'd just like to thank Dave for putting it together. It's a good report, and it sets out our position quite clearly. So we'll look forward to next year. Okay. Item 8, which is Appendix B, is the action plan. Does anyone have any comment on the action plan? No officers have any comments? It's as read, really. It's fairly straightforward. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands up. Okay, well, that leads us on to any other urgent business, and I haven't had any through the chair. So that concludes our meeting. Yes.
Can I just bring up a couple of very quick points? Sorry.
Yeah, not a problem.
Just to update the group on the collective worship policy, which we discussed at the last meeting. It is ready to go, but obviously at this present time, it doesn't feel like the right time to put that out to schools. I think we ought to wait until schools are in a slightly more stable position in terms of knowing what's going to happen in the future. So as soon as we have something more concrete on a full return to school for students, then I will put that document out to the schools. So it's not been forgotten. It's simply that I decided that it wasn't necessarily the best time to do that. Schools have got enough on their plates as it is, without additional, what might be seen as additional pressure via me regarding collective worship. But it is there, it's ready to go. And as soon as we have something more concrete in terms of return, then I'll get that document out to schools. Thank you, Guy.
Okay. Deanna.
Just to say, Andrea made the offer of using Zoom for the next meeting because I found the sound, I have hearing problems, I found the sound very difficult to pick up when people were talking. So is it possible for us, because Zoom is much clearer, for us to go through Zoom rather than through this? And also we would be able to see more people, I think. Is that a possibility?
It's up to the committee. I have no objections to that.
And what do other people feel about it? Yeah, Joyce is.
Tony and Stuart with their hands up.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's much more streamlined. Messages.
I can't hear Mariam at all.
Tony has both hands, or
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and me. People are agreeing with.
Oh, is that? Oh, they're putting your hands up to agree, not to speak.
Yeah, I think so.
See, this is because we used to use Google, and then it's Teams, then we use Zoom for other things as well.
I would prefer Zoom if I can comment.
Yeah.
And I would prefer Zoom as well.
Yeah.
That's Ted.
Yeah.
Right then, Andrea, are you happy to set that up?
More than happy. It doesn't matter to me which team or Zoom I use, but if it works better for this committee, then I think Zoom's the way forward.
Yeah, and there's not a problem with that in the recording for YouTube, because we use Zoom and for full council and that gets recorded. So
yeah, that's right, Chair.
Right. Okay, that's fine.
Can I just say that I've been
Yeah.
I don't know whether this is in the appropriate time or moment, but I've been in touch with Dave about changing the status of the humanist representative on the SACRE from co-opted member to committee A. The developing inclusion of worldviews, including humanism, means that we are, to a certain extent, out of step with the themes of the day. So I wondered if it would be possible for the SACRE to agree to move the humanist representative from co-option to committee A.
Yeah, if I can just
on,
come back in on that. Stuart, I've finally had some response from Linda, the chair at SACRE. So I'm expecting her to get back to me about exactly how we go about doing that. It's simply a case of I wouldn't know how we would move one from non-voting to a voting member on a particular committee. So as soon as I've got the mechanics of that, then of course we will certainly look into whether that can be done or not. Absolutely.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay. Ted, is that an old hand?
Ted is an old hand, yes.
That's okay.
That's an old hand.
Andrew, do we have the date of the next meeting?
No, Chair. The meetings for the next council year will probably be decided at the February council meeting as part of the committee meetings going forward. So up to now, there's no next meeting in place.
That's fine. So we'll get that through the post. Okay then, thank you all for another good meeting, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.